if you go to France, if you go to the McDonald's around the corner, you're not going to be able to see the supervisor. The guy's going to tell you, oh, I'm busy. Do you have an appointment? What do you want from me, right? Here, you can walk into a minister's office and tell him, look, I'm looking to bring my startup in Saudi. What shall I do? And the guy can sit with you. It rewards the fighters, the ones that are pushing and fighting. They throw you in the middle of the ocean and you have to know if you can swim or not. The first day I came at 2 a.m. in the morning in Dammam, which was not even Riyadh. One guy came to pick me up and he drove me to the office, and there was a bed in the office, right? So, and it gives you a good tone. My goal was to deliver company at scale, above like $50 million ARR, and profitable, or at least break even. That's what I did. You don't put me any potential client in the CRM until you have either a parking spot there or an employee card. You have to drink coffee with them. You have to go to the smoke break with them. You have to understand their pain points. The idea is to lead it from Saudi. And we have the same ambition that tomorrow Governata is going to be a prerequisite globally for any AI adoption.
Delighted to say that my guest today is Djamel Mohand, a Rocket Internet alumnus who landed in the kingdom over a decade ago, back when relocating to Saudi for tech was far less than fashionable. Now, over the course of the last 10 years, he's been building businesses across the region, perhaps most notably as the chief operating officer at Foodix, where he helped scale the restaurant management platform to over 30,000 restaurants across 25 countries, and they are on the precipice now of an IPO. Earlier this year, however, he stepped away to start something new, Governata, a Saudi-based data governance platform that's just raised a $4 million seed round. Now, data governance is not exactly the sexiest pitch in the world, and Djamel will be the first to admit this himself, but his thesis, in essence, is this. Everyone is talking about AI adoption, but very few organizations have their data house in order to actually make it work. Governata is positioning itself as that foundational layer. During the course of the conversation, we get into the Rocket Internet origin story, what he learned scaling Foodix, and why the gap between having a data policy and actually implementing one is where the real opportunity lies. Incredibly grateful to Djamel for taking the time. Really enjoyed the conversation. But before we get into the episode,
Warren Buffett once said, the stock market is designed to transfer money from the active to the patient. And Lebanese-American mathematician Nassim Nicholas Taleb reminded us that you cannot predict, you can only get ready. Those two insights define today's investing environment. You don't win by guessing the next move. You win by preparing, cutting through the noise, and letting discipline compound over time. That's exactly what Sarwa delivers. Sarwa's modern platform is grounded in simplicity and lets you trade stocks, ETFs, crypto, options, and high-yield savings, all in one app. They keep your fees low, so more of your money goes to work, with minimums as low as $500. Sarwa is loved by experts, not just beginners. Whether you're a first-timer, an active investor, or a day trader, you'll join hundreds of thousands of users who choose Sarwa to grow their wealth. As a FWDstart listener, you get $200 when you open a new account with code FWDstart. All the details are in the description. And if you're chatting to the team, please do tell them that JB sent you. So, what are you waiting for? Get started in minutes and take control of your money your way. Sarwa is regulated by the ADGM, Financial Services Regulatory Authority. The information shared in this segment is for educational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. Investing involves risk, and past performance is not indicative of future results.
Djamel, absolutely fantastic to have you here. And many congrats on the seed round for Governata, which was announced last week.
Thank you, Jamie. Happy to be here.
I try to avoid on occasion digging too much into backgrounds of guests, but on this occasion, I think to fully probably appreciate how you actually came to this problem in the first place, I think we probably do need to go back in time. My understanding is, Djamel, you're French by birth, so how do you come to Saudi then? We were talking off camera before this. Over a decade ago, before it was fashionable, I think it's fair to say you were on the ground in Riyadh. So I believe you were a Rocket Internet alumnus. How does this journey start?
That's a great question. Look, like exactly more than 10 years ago, again, I was in France, very like maybe traditional background. I did a business school in France, and I was working at Amazon, and I was very comfortable. I never expected to come here, but then like I don't know, suddenly I think I hit my year's target like around July or August. So I was like, okay, what's next for me? And Europe very well, even if performing. I'd say the reward is less because again the market is saturated, so many talent. So what do you get even crashing your target for 15 years consecutively? You're still like somehow stuck somewhere. So I got this offer from Rocket Internet in Saudi. Initially for me it was like a joke, but as I'm also a Muslim, I said, you know what, maybe it's a good idea just to go for a year, do the pilgrimage, see what's going on there, and come back, right? Because again, like I crushed my target. Maybe I'm thinking about switching jobs anyway, so I'm still young, so let's make it happen. So what was supposed to be 6 months is now 10 years, because when I came here, Yes, it was difficult. It was another word, but I saw immediately the potential of a country, and how I evaluate that is just that again, where is the glass ceiling? Where is the ceiling, right? If you are good and you are like kicking ass basically, and if you are performing, where can you go? And I immediately saw that here there is no limit. So that's what immediately attracted me. There was a lot of other things that were like mixed feelings, obviously, but at least this was there, which was not in Europe. So that's why I guess I'm still here until today.
What was the experience like with Rocket Internet? I've heard from others it's baptism of fire.
It is something. So it's not for everybody, for sure. Basically, like the whole concept is that they throw you in the middle of the ocean, and you have to know if you can swim or not. And it's good for you because it's a discovery for yourself as well. So again, like back to me coming to Saudi, and the first day I came at 2 a.m. in the morning in Dammam, which was not even Riyadh, and I did one guy came to pick me up. And he drove me to the office, and there was a bed in the office, right? So my
Wow.
first night was in the office, and it gives you a good tone, right? Now next day, like 8 a.m., started the work. So it was Easy Taxi at the time, which is now Genie. It's a ride-hailing company, right? And again, maybe next day 9 a.m. I was on the street stopping taxis. I was not speaking any word of Arabic. The guys didn't understand me, so it was just like, okay, fulus, register, and yeah, that's been like the same tone for the 4.5 years I stayed with Rocket. Every day it's about doubling the numbers versus the previous day, one way or another. After 6 months, I had a team of 50 people. I never managed a single person in my life before. But again, like this is where the true character goes out, and you see if you can swim, as I said, maybe only 2-3% of the people can do it. But for me, again, it was a great school. I've been always grateful to the rocket management here in the Middle East, to my former CEO as well. So it was tough. It was a lot of sleepless night. I lost my hair. I gained a few kgs. But honestly, from business perspective, it's probably the best school you can have in the world, because you can do anything after that. Basically, you're not afraid of any challenge. Any target seems to you like ridiculous or achievable at least. So again, it was difficult, a lot of work, 7 days a week, a lot of challenges. Again, when you do 500 rides, the first day, and they tell you have to do 1,000 the next day, one way or another. You have a lot of innovation and imagination comes your way. So you don't sleep not only because of work, but because of stress as well, and not having a clue of what you're going to do the next day. But again, at the end of the day, you come back from it much, much, much stronger, and most importantly, not afraid of any challenge after that. And as I said, everything after that sounds like holidays or sounds like reasonable, right? So that's the idea.
Do you think you've internalized something from the culture there? Is that something that you've brought with you? Something I've maybe read in interviews that you've provided before is you seem to embrace the messiness of things and you kind of thrive in that more chaotic environment.
Somehow, yes, but like chaos is not a goal, right?
Mm.
It's just a way to do things. What I learned in Rocket, really, it's like this culture of, again, accountability, that you have to deliver whatever. If you have to be messy, make it messy. If you have to make it like borderline, make it borderline. But if you have to, you can make it organized. It's much better. Of course, nobody's gonna value messiness over organization and structure and strategy, right? But it's just about all these things have to be a way to achieve the goal, right? When I see in some organizations later on, and even startups, that people are doing organizational stuff just for the sake of being organized and not for the sake of being more performing, that's a problem, right? And that's what I learned in Rocket, that we don't care about these things. We care about the objective. Okay, so if you have to be messy, make it messy. If you have to be organized, make it organized. But the most important thing I take from that, and I often replicate after that, is the culture of extreme fairness, right?
Mm.
And this is, for me, it's very important. It's culture where you absolutely value top performers. So for me, maybe in my 4 years in Rocket, I've been promoted 5 times or something like this, be given responsibility of 3, 4 ventures at the same time. I had, like, at some point maybe 600, 700 people under me very fast, because I think I delivered and I achieved results. And on the contrary, again, like if you are a bit maybe lazy, if your lifestyle or work style is 9 to 5 and you're comfortable with that, which has nothing wrong, by the way, but they show you that from the day you walk into the office or the street or the warehouse or wherever they send you, they show you that it's not the place for you. And I think that culture, for me, it really sticks with me, and I try to replicate everywhere I go, because this is the way you attract, you nurture, and you promote all top performers and people that want to deliver and work. And that's the way where you avoid maybe also disappointments, etc. Right? So that extreme fairness culture is extremely important. Again, in both sides. It happened to me promoting people 3 times per year. I think it's in no HR manual in the planet. But for me, I don't care. I'll do it 10 times if it needs to be done, and if the person is amazing, I'm gonna fight. I'm gonna take from my salary to give it to him, and that's what I learned again in Rocket, that at the end of the day, that culture is also the most performing one, and it reflects in the whole company. As I said, like by yourself, you're gonna work out if you're not here to deliver, and you're gonna attract the best people because they know that this is where they're gonna be rewarded better than anywhere else.
Okay, so you have this internal culture of accountability and rapid promotion. So it's very much a meritocracy. I'm curious about this period generally because I know you try to think of it as the first ride-hailing wars. I feel like I'm invoking Asimov and the robot wars to a certain extent. But obviously, you have Kareem and Uber present at this moment in time as well. Obviously, I would think with enormous resources compared to Genie. So, how did you navigate this?
Yeah, it's a great point. Look, first, by the way, when we came, there was no Uber or Carib, We came the first, and the value proposition was literally, and there was no matter like in the app, the negotiation was still physical, etc. And this was only public taxis. There was no private cars at the time because it was forbidden.
Hmm.
Uh, and the only value proposition was literally just order your cab, not from the street because it's too hot, but you can stay in the office while you order. When the cab comes, then that is the same offline experience. So it was really a basic experience, and we started from there. Right? So you can imagine, I would say the struggle even with the customers, etc. And I remember once we had the GPS issue with the app, so it was showing to the driver a different location. It was showing that JB, you are like 100 meters, 200 meters away from where you are actually, right? So as we said before, you can shut down the app for 2 weeks until they fix it, or you can manage, right? So I remember we had the call center calling the driver, calling the passenger every single time to say, hey, by the way, Jamie is not there, is in front of the pharmacy. And at the time, it was 4,000, 5,000 rides per day, right? So it was not small. So when Uber and Karim came, actually, it was a good thing, because first they also brought like the private cars with them, like the model we know today. It was forbidden. I think they got their office shut down like 4 or 5 or 10 times, but eventually them pushing and us pushing, we managed to make it a proper regulation, and we made it like approved. And also, again, like our fight was not between really each other, but was from switching offline habits to online habits, right? And the market is, I would say, it's big enough for the three of us to grow. So them pushing to marketing as well, and for us acquiring their users was also, helpful. It's easier to convert a guy from Karim to Genie, saying like it's cheaper, for example, than converting him from offline where he has his own driver to online where he has to fire the driver, change all his way of life, all his commuting, right? So somehow it was a blessing, but yes, I mean, you are fighting against people that have 200, 300, $2 billion of funding, right? They can fund drivers, they can fund customers and acquire customers much faster than you. But eventually, I think when I left, we were more or less head to head with Kareem, and they had all this funding. And for us, probably we spent $2 million and then became profitable. The whole idea was, again, to be cheaper for drivers. So we're taking less commission, and
Mm.
cheaper for people, and to be extremely efficient in terms of operations, right? At the end of the day, I think it was me and the CEO in terms of proper management, and all the rest were driver operations, right? So we were super lean as well. And in marketing, we had also a very efficient setup where we have a good cost of acquisition. But again, like on paper it works, then it's about hammering and executing every single day to grow the customer base, to grow the driver base, make sure the operations are straightforward. Again, like for example, we had support on the ground in Saudi. Maybe Karim didn't have that like fully in the beginning. We had people talking to the driver, like from Pakistan, for example, talking to the people from Saudi, from Jordan as well, with a proper Saudi accent, localized. We're fixing the issues, like Uber, for example, you cannot talk to anyone, obviously. Here you can talk to an actual person that speaks your language. That makes a big difference in Saudi till today, but most at the time it was even a bigger difference. Like how in Europe, for example, first, you don't want to talk to customer service agent. That's
Absolutely.
number one. You don't want to talk to anyone. And number two, obviously you're not going to pay for it. Yeah, you don't care that they have a customer service or not. At the end of the day, you want your product in the right time with new issues, and you don't want to talk to anyone. Here they reward this thing, like they're going to use you because they can call and shout at you if they have any problem, and they reward that means they're going to ride with you. So we understood that localization aspect, which I think made us like successful really, even in fighting the giants at the time. But I don't like to use these words. It was really mostly about all of pushing to convert the market. Maybe today the fight is more intense because everyone is online at the end of the day, and you have to fight your online competitors. But at the time, it was really, really about switching the habits, and we all benefited from each other for sure.
Yeah, there's a literacy component, isn't there, in many aspects in terms of educating the market. Something that I hear about as well is that you're very agile with regard to pricing. Can you tell me a small bit about that? Maybe you weren't restricted by the same levers of bureaucracy that maybe an Uber or Cream was as far as adjusting.
Of course. I guess I told you, like, we're a super lean organization at the end of the day. I was changing the pricing. It takes me a couple clicks to change the pricing. I guess changing Uber's pricing, it's 6 months against strategy and negotiation, right? So our goal was really to be cheaper on every single ride. So what we were doing at some point of it, we were looking at Uber pricing, and I was applying a 10% discount. And again, when they were changing their pricing, for me, the 6 months exercise for them, it was taking us maybe half an hour to change and be agile, and we were still cheaper, right? So that flexibility, it's extremely important. It's critical because again, for them, they take 6 months for what we do in half an hour, and people are gonna see it. We can continue our value proposition saying you will never find a Uber driver that is cheaper than us at the end of the day. And it was very, very important as a justification. And it's not only about the agility of changing, right? Even if Uber changes their pricing, they're gonna take another 6 months, to have the awareness, to promote it, to make sure people understand it and see it, and the reflection on the customer behavior, right? So for us, that agility was really, really our strength, and our competitive advantage for sure.
Okay, so after Genie, then we go to Kitopi, and then give me the timeline as far as next steps. Then I get somewhat confused. I know there's Kitopi, there's Wadi, there's Foodix then as well.
No, there was, like I would say again, like Rocket Internet, like at the time was probably the biggest startup incubator in the world. So they launched a lot of ventures, also in the Middle East, right? Replicating the model they had in Europe and South America and Africa, everywhere else in the world. So after Genie, because we were quite, like, I'd say, successful, we managed to grow the company, made it profitable, fighting head to head with Kareem, for example, very close to Uber as well. Uh, I would say, called to work with other ventures as well, either pivot, either grow these companies that were maybe less successful sometimes, are the wrong, like I would say, business model. So I helped, like, again, Wadi.com at the time, it was an e-commerce. They raised a lot of money, and I think they could not maybe compete with the players at the time, and Souk was acquired by Amazon, so it was very difficult for them to compete. So we came in, and we pivoted the company to grocery delivery, and at the time it was the first one as well, in terms of grocery delivery. So we pivoted the company. We were working hand in hand with Majid Al Futtaim, and eventually they acquired the company. I remember again, like, Carrefour at the time, also from Majid Al Futtaim, launched their online store, and they could do maybe 10% of the order volume we could do, like, operation wise, like, because we had that experience also with ride hailing, with managing operations that they didn't have. So we're performing super well. And that's why I think they decided to also acquire the company, to kind of acquire, hire the operations as well. And we help also several other ventures. So for me, it was a good experience. At the end of the day, I was thinking, why not opening a VC? I've seen more or less all business startup models. No founder can bullshit me today, and I'm gonna know exactly how to scale every single business. So, but I loved operations too much. So eventually, I went to Kitopi. So the challenge was incredible because they just raised, I think at the time, their Series A or Series B, and they were expanding to KSA. And I love the business model, which is to, again, like, bring food brands from all over the world in a single location, and and ride this wave of food delivery and digitalization. And it was amazing. The challenge was great. So we launched the country. I was employee number one in Saudi. Stayed only 9 months, unfortunately. After that, COVID hit, and I had some personal issues where my wife has a tough pregnancy. I had to come back to France. But for the 9 months, it was a really a wild ride. I mean, we launched the company. It was one of the first MISA company like integrated in the country here in Saudi that got the license to operate as a foreign company, as a startup. So even the country was not ready. Like banking, I remember taking like $300,000, $400,000 in cash from the bank, carrying it on me, to pay the employees, because the bank had no clue at the time how to handle those companies. Same with government processes, same with getting a license to open the kitchen. So it was really a wild ride. I mean, we started with myself, and we went up to, I think, 350 employees. Have to find accommodation for the guys. There's a huge shortage in the market because we had to open, I think, 50 kitchens the first year, something like this. And employees, it takes up to 6 months for manpower companies to bring you waiters, etc. So it happened to me driving to Dammam 400 kilometers to get one guy that was in a falafel shop in Dammam that just shut down, to bring him back to Riyadh just to work and teach him how to do fries and cook other stuff, right? So it was really an insane ride. I remember there was the Friday prior, on Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Mm.
and the rest of the time it was all working. I think 4 a.m., 5 a.m. in the morning, just to set up the company. And I think we did really amazingly well. I mean, I think we opened like a huge central kitchen, six kitchens. We onboarded, I think, 40 brands, something like this. Again, 400 employees in 9 months. I remember I had food brands guy. They came to me, like the Herfi guys, that is the biggest in Saudi. They came to me and said, "Yeah, how did you open? Like, how did you get so many municipality licenses, even to open so many places? I mean, we have 500 branches. We still don't understand how you guys are doing this." So again, it was amazing learning, wild ride. Again, the last hair I had that went there. I didn't know we could do worse than Rocket Internet, but again, like I think we did amazingly well, and I think it allowed the company also to raise that big Series C of $500 million from SoftBank to continue the expansion into Saudi, even despite COVID coming. And again, we set up the foundations for the company to grow, and now they are thriving in the market, and I'm very happy to see how successful they are in the whole region.
And Jamal, can I ask you, you mentioned the accelerated licensing there. How did you actually approach that? How did you get that done?
Again, at the time, it was all about like pushing. I think the founder, Mohammed Balout, was pushing with the help of Misa as well to have that case study. Also, like Kitopi was a Dubai company coming into Saudi, get good amount of funding from VCs in the region. So it was important for the country, for the kingdom at the time, that was actually having the intention, the Vision 2030, to attract those kind of companies, to make it also a proof of concept. But again, at the time, today, maybe there are some processes, and you can find online like the documentation you need, and what are the steps to follow. At the time, honestly, it was like it was a jungle almost. You just have to go there, sit there in Misa, try to help them figure out as well what to do. And that's the beauty of also in Saudi. Honestly, that's what I love about the kingdom. If you go to France, as I say often to my friends, if you go to the McDonald's around the corner, you're not gonna be able to see the supervisor. And the guys can tell you, "Oh, I'm busy. Do you have an appointment? What do you want from me?" Right? Here, you can walk into a minister's office and tell him, "Look, I'm looking to bring my startup in Saudi. What shall I do?" And the guy can sit with you, and you can give him advice, and he can talk to you, and you can change a whole government process by just sitting there with them and working all together. So it's an amazing thing at the end of the day. As I told you in the beginning, Jamie, it rewards
Mm.
the fighters, the ones that are pushing and fighting. Of course, if you stay home and you expect to have an online application and get a license, it's never gonna happen. It's never gonna happen. But if you go there and you push and you work all together, and you show that you are bringing value as well to the country, to the people, they're gonna make an exception for you. Sometimes maybe you're gonna hear from government entity tell you, "Look, go without license, just start, and we'll do the whole licenses framework while you are working. So we study how you work, and we're going to do the licensing based on that," right? So that flexibility is really amazing, and is really what makes the country great as well, despite sometimes, as you said, you see some messiness.
Yep.
But the intention, the objective, and the vision is there. So once you have this setup, you're going to reach there one way or another. And this is what you see even in governmental entities. So that's the mindset you need to come with. And that's why I always say, even to startups in the UAE, guys, don't think that expanding into Saudi because there's a border in common, it's that easy. You have to think like you are expanding to Singapore or Japan. You're never going to tell me that, yeah, I'm going to travel once a month for one day to Japan and I'm going to launch my company there. It's not the case. So UAE is the again is the same thing, and guys have to come on the ground, and you have to push as well, and you have to see who you have to talk to, because remotely you're not going to see anything, and that's also a good learning for people that are building, and want to deal with the government here and with the administration as well.
Yeah, there's this perception that it's just entirely culturally homogenous and there's no difference. Let me tell you, as we were talking beforehand, I was only in Riyadh very briefly for a week, and I can tell you there's a difference. Believe me, and that's no bad thing. But to your point, I think there's this idea. To your point, that they share a border, so therefore there can't be too much of a difference. You have to appreciate even the size of Saudi in and of itself. It's a continent in many respects. Even expecting the same thing in Riyadh and Jeddah and Dammam, I mean, they're quite different in many respects.
For sure. I mean, at the end of the day, even like I'm surprised by this, because look at, even in the UAE, right? At the end of the day, you don't do business in Dubai like you do in Ras Al Khaimah or in Al Ain or in Abu Dhabi, even. And yeah, I see sometimes, honestly, startups, they have different teams for like Abu Dhabi and Dubai, but they want to do the same. They say, oh, Riyadh, it's easy, it's the same country, right? I'm like, guys, but even for Abu Dhabi, you understand it's a different go-to market and it's a different country, right? Because it's a different Emirates, right? And you think that Riyadh is going to be just an extension of your Dubai business. It's not possible. It's just not humanly possible. And this is just not how it works, right? And I think a lot of people understood that today, but it took some time. I remember a lot of UAE companies just expanding to Riyadh as again, like, as I'm gonna do 2 days every 2 weeks in Riyadh, and it's gonna be just fine because it's the same people having the same ad content, for example, etc., etc. It used to be a very common mistake. I think today everybody understood, but it took some time.
Yeah, it's certainly no longer a box ticking exercise. Something that has emerged as a thread with regard to Genie and I think Kitopi there is this idea of establishing things before maybe the requisite regulatory framework or licensing is necessarily in place. So can I ask, and we'll maybe lead into Governata, and we can maybe go back to Foodix in a while. When did, I suppose, the data governance problem first become visible to that end? Like, was this something that you saw throughout your career in a Saudi context? Was it running operations at Foodix, or was it your co-founders, Jihad and Khalid? Did they bring the insight?
To be honest, it was a bit of everything. I mean, it's, like, at the end of the day, it's a very different topic, but you see a lot of common similarities. So what I saw, I think the first time I met Jihad is a good example, because he was selling Informatica, which at the end of the day is
Hmm.
our biggest like competitor
Yep.
globally, that got acquired by Salesforce, to an entity called the NAPCO here. It's the PIF venture dealing with healthcare. And these guys wanted to buy that software so badly, and he was actually selling it, but trying to explain to them that they are not ready to buy it. And for me, it's very weird to see someone selling something and convincing the client not to buy. For me, it's like error 404. At the end of the day, and I tried to understand this, and I was like, what the hell? I mean, why do you guys want to buy this so badly? I understood again that there was this regulation about data management and data governance, and I realized something, that again, like, everybody was buying that software, although they cannot use it because it's too complex, it's really old school, it does not even make you compliant with the regulation. But they were using it, to have it on record. And the same thing with their data policies, data sharing policies, data privacy policies, that they wanted to establish all this, the regulatory framework. But at the end of the day, it's like a virtual world, right? So they have this somewhere, all these policies and regulation compliance, and what happens on the ground is something completely different, right? So it's like a virtual thing. So the government is allowing all these guys to operate, and they are not finding them initially, and they know about this. It's not like they don't know. They know that this is just policies that you have on paper, and you are giving it to us and pretending you are using this, and in reality you're not. They know, but again, as I told you, Jamie, they look at the objective, right?
Yes.
So for them, it's a first step. At least they brought consultants to draft those policies. They understand what it means, and they're going to implement tomorrow. But they are not like, they are very smart. They are not maybe like a bit stubborn like we see in Europe or in our countries to say, oh no, you're not compliant. Okay, we're gonna fine you, we're gonna hurt you, we're gonna hammer you, and we're gonna prevent you from working. No, they understand that the intention is good. Okay, the intention is to comply. They don't really know how, so they are buying a software they're never gonna use. But again, the intention is good, so we're not gonna prevent them from operating. We're gonna actually help them until they get there, and then maybe we start like actually fining and actually slapping them. So that's why we created Governata to actually, of course, like keep the regulatory thing in place, but allowing the entities to actually use it and make it a reality and actually make it fundamentally like apply it within their teams and within their organization. And I think again the government is very supportive also with us because of this, because they understood, okay, before we were having a regulation, they were applying it halfway. We were closing our eyes because they had nothing in the market. Now they have something that they can take these regulations and these policies that they have, make it a reality. So we're going to encourage it. And once it's there, and that's what I've seen before with all the other ventures, once it's there and they're confident that everyone knows the way, has the way to comply, then they're going to be merciless, which is fine at the end of the day. But in the whole process, they're gonna be again pragmatic, and that's what I love again about the country, about the government, about the regulation here. It's always like this. The same thing happened to us in Foodix. We were the first, one of the first, what we call payment aggregator in the country, which we were taking the money of the restaurants and settling them ourselves. So we're not a bank, we're not an acquirer, but we are getting the money in our bank account and we are settling merchants. This didn't exist initially, and they created Sama created the license for that. But first they created the sandbox, then they allow us certain thresholds, then we were operating somewhere that is a gray area that they didn't cover because we're doing something they don't even know if it's legal or not, if you need a license for that. But they're not going to come and find you, right? They're going to come and talk to you and say, explain to us what you are doing exactly, and for us we're going to create the regulation around it, and we're going to tell you whether you need a license or you need just a non-objection letter or you don't need anything, right? And we're going to create the framework around the business, not we're going to create the framework to destroy the business.
No, not the
And that's really
Not the European Union outlook, where it's
exactly. So that's what I
penalizing
love
fine
here.
first.
Exactly. No, but that's what I love here. Exactly. In Europe, they're going to stop you first, and then they're going to start thinking. Here, they know you have a good intention, which is to digitalize the country, to secure data, to, again, digitalize the government, etc. So they know about your intention, that you're not doing anything wrong. You are doing something to help the country and help the kingdom and help businesses to digitalize. So they know you have a good intention. So they're not going to stop you, but they're going to say, guys, now that we understand what you are doing, we're going to build something, a regulatory framework around it. First, that's going to be still allowing you to operate because we see we're not doing something wrong. Secondly, that's going to secure that because, of course, it's not a jungle. You cannot do whatever you want. But again, that is logical and makes everybody's benefit, the government, security, and the business going. So everyone is supportive. I'm sure the regulations you have, like in Sama, for example, in the central bank, most of it has been like written, like co-redacted by businesses, right? Not by technocratic people that are sitting in an office and don't know even what business you are dealing with, right? No, most probably these are people from companies suggested rules to regulate their own business, and Sama approved it or not, and this is amazing. This co-creation process is why you also respect, the government and the authorities when they tell you something. It's not just to depress you and to prevent you from working. You know that most probably they saw an actual risk. It's not just them, wanting to shut you off. It's them seeing a proper risk, and you even respect that as a business, and you are fine with the regulation because they also have a good intention from their side to regulate and still to promote business.
Yeah, they don't know the pain of an ivory tower in Brussels from ruling on high. But look, let's not get into that. Okay, this is all well and good. Okay, so Jihad comes with this insight as it pertains to advising the particular company selling your informatica too, and he's reluctant on one level. That's quite a leap then to Governata. Let's fill in some of that blank space there because you're with Foodix. It's a company you've helped scale to 30,000 restaurants, approaching profitability, heading towards IPO. What on earth makes you walk away from that?
Yeah, it's a good question. Look, for me, at the end of the day, I'm extremely proud of what we did again in Foodix. It's like my baby until today, and until today, I'm like helping any way I can, it's just that I think I finished my mission, I think I came to the company, it was like maybe 4 or 5 million ARR, scaled it like 10x, opened a few countries, we started the payment vertical, we hired maybe more than 2,000 people in total, added like 5 or 6 products, acquired a few companies, raised $200 million. So no, again, like what more? At the end of the day, we've done it all, I guess. For me, I think again it was time. Also, the company enters in a new phase with the IPO, etc. My goal was to deliver, I think, a company at scale, above like $50 million ARR and profitable, or at least break even, and that's what I did. After that, again, it's a new phase, right, where you prepare for an IPO. Targets are also different and more achievable, maybe, and this is not also where I thrive. At Foodix, again, for me, I consider myself as the company as my baby, but still, I'm not a founder as well. Technically speaking, I came. The company was 5 years old already, so I think it was time for me also to start my own. I'm very proud of what I did for the company. I have very good, like, part of my job was to make the company scalable also without me, right? So part of my job was to put a very solid team in place, and that's the case. I think they're better than me as well, so I'm happy about that. And the company is not suffering from me leaving, because it's part of my job to make sure it's not the case. And I think I've done this well as well. The new leadership is exceptional as well, and it's going to take and it's the right leadership to take the company to the next phases, like the IPO and post IPO story. And me, again, I'm more like of a builder at the end of the day, and I think it was time to build my own before I get too old, and too fat maybe. So that's exactly what happened. Yeah.
So before you'd left, had you identified the opportunity that you wanted to tackle? Was it more, I want to do my own thing and I'm not sure yet what it is? Or is it, okay, I've identified this opportunity and the data governance side of things. This makes sense. The timing is right. Let's get after this.
So it's maybe a mix of both. Look, for me, what I was certain about is that I love the model we had in Foodix, which is B2B SaaS model, because it's for companies, it's recurring revenue, and it's bringing value to the clients a lot. So I love that model. My only maybe frustration in this business model of Foodix is that at the end of the day, what merchants pay us is around $1,500 every year.
Yeah.
And with this amount, you cannot really take care of the customer as much as you want, right? Because with $1,000, basically, if you make one visit per year, you are eating 50% of that revenue, right? So it's a good challenge, because you have to automate, like, support at scale. You still have to have a good service level, despite not being able to invest that much with the clients. But for me, I was always in my mind to have the same B2B SaaS model, but with a much higher contract value, not because of financials. Yes, of course, it's better to need only 100 customers to be a unicorn than 50,000. Definitely, it's also better as a founder, but that will give me the liberty to really take care about the customers and bring a premier service to the customer, understand the pain point, and fix it even beyond my own product, right? So for me, that was always in my mind. And the data opportunity, it really came to me again like this, by seeing the opportunity in the market, but seeing it, at scale, because everybody has a data issue, one way or another, with their dashboards, with their data warehouse, with their system integration. Sometimes they have 3 middlewares, etc. So my thinking was, always wanted to do something in this space, but nothing was really scalable. So when I met this data governance opportunity with Jihad, and with what he was selling, I was like, that's amazing, because that's the only thing that is common, across all companies, from the smallest startup to the biggest government entity in the data space. And that's amazing, because it reminds me of the POS story at Foodix, because Foodix were successful because as POS, you are the source of truth of all data and of all systems. So if you have a mobile app, you have to connect it to your POS. If you change the mobile app, you can change the mobile app, but you're not going to change the POS. You have to reconnect it again. And here, data governance, data management, it was the same feeling. It's like we're the prerequisite of any data work. If I want to change my data warehouse, it's okay. But I'm not going to change my data governance, because this is where I define my terms. I define my threshold of quality for data. This is where I scan my data, etc. And down the road, the same thing. If I want to change my visualization app, people switch, and I'm sure it happened to you, Jamie, and to everyone. People are in Power BI and they say, no, Power BI sucks. Let's go to Tableau, and Tableau sucks. Let's go to Click, and then it sucks. Let's go back to Power BI. It happens to everyone. It's just people don't understand that the issue is not the application, is the backbone that is behind, which is data and how you manage your data. Because you probably have no people understood data warehouse, like they are buying Snowflake and Databricks and this kind of things. So they understood they have to put all their data in one place, but they didn't understand that you cannot connect things to that because that place is like a box. You don't know really what's inside. So you need, like, I always use this metaphor, but it's like you have a warehouse and you throw all items inside. Now you want to buy a white t-shirt like yours, Jamie. How do you find it? You need someone that comes, does the shelving, does the labeling, does the fire security, puts a guard on the door, put proper lighting, ventilation, humidity, and that's exactly what we do. And that problem is common to everyone. And for me, when it hit me, it was really beautiful. It is actually, even from a startup model, it was what I was looking for, because again, it's obviously a higher contract value. We're solving a core problem. There are so many applications you can do once you have Governata, like, as a prerequisite. You can do AI, and Gen AI opportunity came here as well, which is that, again, we are prerequisite for any Gen AI thing. So there's so many things you can do from there. It immediately hit me that it was the starting point of everything, and that this is the opportunity I have to grab. And that's what we're doing, successfully, and what we're going to do much more in the next few years, of course.
Did your two co-founders take much convincing? Were they skeptical, or were they all in straight away?
Honestly, like Jihad, maybe I hope he would not hear this, so I'm gonna hide the recording from him, Jamie. But again, like, Jihad is really a data guru. He's been establishing data offices for public and private entities for the last 20 years, and he knows the problem, and he sees that, again, I told you, he reached a point where even what he's selling, he's not convinced himself, right? So he saw the need. It's just that when you've been a consultant, like with Deloitte, with the biggest consultancy entities for 20, 30 years, the idea of living and building something yourself because you identify a problem, it's like I'm asking you to give your kidney. For consultants, for me, it's logical, right? It took me 2 minutes in my brain. For them, maybe because they have 30 years of experience with the biggest consultancy companies in the world, resigning and building your own product is very difficult. So it took me a lot of convincing to convince him. I had actually to build an MVP to actually show him that, look, Jihad, it's possible, and the problem you are facing, we can actually solve it, and we don't need anybody else to solve it for us.
Mm.
And then he jumped in, and actually one of my biggest prides, one of my biggest milestone and achievement, is to make this data guru that's working with, like, everybody wants in the market resign and start this with me. Till today, I think it's my biggest achievement, and maybe in 10 years it will still be one of my biggest achievements. So
Talk to me a small bit about that MVP then. How do you go about crafting that? Because your background isn't in the data governance space.
look, at the end of the day, learn, like, doing a lot of startups. The industry, it's not really relevant, right? For me, I'm a scalability guy. At the end of the day, I learn how to scale ventures. The industry knowledge, it's always fixable. It's always, at the end of the day, a problem solving and execution matter. So for me, yeah, I don't know anything about data governance, but a lot of people know things. So I sit with Jihad, I sit with people in the industry. I understand what is the pain point, what is the problem, and we build something around it. And what I know is, again, how to execute, how to get a good product guy, how to get good developers, how to make them work efficiently, at scale, and make them work fast, to build something. Was it perfect? No, obviously, because, again, I myself have a lot of data knowledge missing, but still, I mean, Athlete was good enough to show the opportunity, and that's what my goal. Remember, JB, I told you everything is objective based. My goal was just to convince, like, Jihad, that it's possible to build something that fixes his problem, and that's why I managed to build fast, and I managed to build something good enough because I was always objective driven. And for me, I do sometimes, like, entrepreneurship keynotes, and I always say something. I say, time to start. Look, try fast, fail fast. You have to launch whatever idea you have. Don't do business plans for 6 months or 1 year or build complex product. Just fucking launch. That's literally what I say. But that's exactly the contrary that I did for once in my life, because we're dealing with a deep tech product, that had to be mature enough to work with ministries, to work with government from day one. So then we had to improve a lot of things. We have to iterate the development. We had to invest in a lot of skilled technology resources.
Mm.
But again, like, the first MVP did the job to convince the right people to get on board. And I understood through my experience that most probably is the most important thing initially is to have the right people with you, and then from that we can build much better, much faster, and a different product.
To that end, from a hiring perspective, I think you've spoken previously about hiring for mentality over credentials. So, trying to find hungry people at the seed stage, especially, I suppose those early hires are existential. So, who were the first people that you brought on outside of the co-founders, and how did you pinpoint them? How did you find them?
Yeah, obviously, I mean, that definitely, I'm not gonna say something new, but that's exactly the first people I brought is people I know from my previous experiences. As you said, at that stage is critical. The first people you onboard 100%. It's very difficult to hire, honestly, from CVs today because you can say anything you want in a CV. And for me, as you said, mentality is much more important even than where you work before. I don't. uh, I'm just thinking now, people in Governata, I don't even know their age, honestly. And my co-founders, I don't know how old they are, at the end of the day, because I don't care about the age. I don't care much about the background. What I care is really about the mentality, what they can deliver. As I said, like even industry, they can learn, although you sometimes in some position, you need specialized people in the industry. But for me, of course, immediately I go to the people I know, and I go with people with the track record. So if I have to look for people outside, I don't look at the CV, I look at the track record, and that's very different. So I'll give you an example. Now we're looking for sales people, obviously in the public sector, for example. I could hire any guy from Oracle or Microsoft or Informatica even, that will have in his CV, oh, I signed Ministry of Tourism or Ministry of Agriculture. The thing is that I don't know if they signed Ministry of Tourism themselves. Maybe it came from the top, from somewhere else, and they just executed the deal. So now to hire, you don't need a recruiter. You actually need like a private investigator, to know exactly who brought those deals and who actually went and closed those deals. And often what you see is that it's not the guy that said that he brought the deal. It's maybe a project manager, a small account manager. Sometimes it's even an assistant, like that brought the deal. And for that to hire these people, it's as I said, it's more like a private investigator. You need to know than a talent acquisition or a headhunter. So it's very tricky, very difficult. That's why for me, I always go first to the people I know and I've worked with, whatever the background, and then I look at really a track record. And then if I have to hire from outside, yeah, I always choose mentality over skills, honestly, and IQ as well, because again, I think a smart person with the right mentality can do anything. At the end of the day, we're not doing neurosurgery, something ultra technical, except in some positions where we have like specific AI use case, etc. You need proper people, but 95% of the positions we have, again, if you are smart, high IQ with amazing mentality, and you are hungry to progress and make it happen, you're gonna figure it out. Like the 3 months investment we take with you to teach you is worth like years of achievements after that.
You signed multiple government entities and some large private sector organizations as well. I'm keen to press you on the reputation is that sometimes these are notoriously slow to actually convert. So, first off, what are we talking from a sales cycle perspective? Keen to get the real story on the ground, as it were, and then I suppose where did those opportunities come from? Was that tapping into like Khalid's network to a certain extent, or Jahed's? Just paint a picture for me.
Yeah, very, very good question, Jamie. Look, there has to be a challenge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because not everything is great. We have a great product, we have a great team, it's a great revenue, great margins, and it's a very sexy space at the moment, and something everybody needs. The term is everybody, literally, in terms of B2B. So there has to be a challenge, right? It cannot be. There's no free lunch, as we say, Jamie. So that's also like the challenge, how we can scale sales with this. I mean, B2G or sales with enterprise clients, and that's again our challenge, and that's what I'm here to fix. Actually, that's my main added value here. So first, the idea was again to standardize what we are selling, and for me, I saw that selling with these big entities, they often need like a lot of customization and dedicated support. For me, it was very important that Governata we stay on the software level.
Yeah.
We are a SaaS company selling a software. If you need any additional services, you know you can use your current partners, advisor, consultants, or we can bring you our own. And I'm saying this, maybe it sounds logical to you, right? But it's not easy. Like, you
Yeah.
have clients that tell you, no, no, Jamel, just stay with me for 6 weeks, give me two consultants, and we'll pay you $400,000, $500,000. And it's tough to say no. It's really, really, really tough to say no. We're not going to do that. Bring your own consultants, or we're going to bring you one of our partners, right? Because you refusing money is very difficult. But it's what keeps you scalable. Tomorrow, if you want to have 500, 1,000, 5,000 clients, this is the only way. If I start staffing 2, 3 people at each client, we are dead already today in terms of scalability. And that's the first thing. And understanding that helps you reduce the sales cycle as well, because again, if they already have like people helping them, as consultants or their internal teams, it's easier to work with them than me, coming in and doing the whole work. So we're going to empower these people with the software, teach them our software, but they're going to do the job themselves. Maybe even from a contract perspective, it's going to be easier for them just to increase the contract amount or number of resources they have with this existing partner. So it's going much faster. The second point is us owning the software is very important. You know that our competitors are mostly have distributors in the
Yep.
market. And with distributor, it's complicated. First, from a price perspective, because they have to make their margin as well. So if the license of the competition is like 1 million real, the contract value is going to be 3 or 4 million real. For us, we first cheaper even in terms of licensing. So probably it's going to cost you 500,000 real, and you don't have to pay that much also to the distributor. The second thing is, and it's very important here to own your technology, is the flexibility. These government entities, enterprise customer, they have each of them, they have their customized rules when it comes to procurement and sales cycle. Some will tell you, we love your software. If you could install today, it would be fantastic, but we can pay you only next year because we don't have the budget for this year. So next year's budget we'll arrange for you. We have no problem doing that, because at the end of the day, we're convinced once we're inside, they'll see the value and they end up paying, and it's our software. So, and we don't have capex. Back to the first point, I don't have consultant staff there, so I can afford giving them 6 months for free for them to discover the software and have the time to arrange from next year's budget. Same with the whole tendering and contracting processes that they have. We try to understand, for example, what is their direct purchase budget, and we can arrange for example, the first year be as a direct purchase. So the second year we'll go through the full procurement and tendering exercise, but at least for the first year we go quick, back to the flexibility element, and that's very important. And the last thing is on the process itself. So the process, we have all the documentation in place. It's very standard, technical proposals, RFPs. Sometimes are replying to RFPs. We're expert in this because we try to standardize, again, like what we do as much as possible. We're ready with the documentation. We're ready with the whole proposal writing. We on the ground to do meetings, etc. And the last thing is what I mentioned earlier about visa and incorporating in Saudi. That's the same thing about incorporating within an. And that's why I tell the team now, the sales team now, I tell them, you don't put me any potential client in the CRM until you have either a parking spot there or an employee card, or you show me any kind of proof that you belong there. Otherwise, you don't put them in the CRM, because you're not going to sell by doing one meeting every month or every quarter, demonstrating with the PowerPoint, demonstrating your solution. You have to be there. You have to drink coffee with them. You have to go to the smoke break with them. You have to understand their pain point, and they're going to reward you eventually, because even if you help them, even in a topic that's not even related to us, they're going to be rewarding, and they're going to want to help you and promote your software as well. So that all combined, helped us really reduce the sales cycle. So some of the biggest ministries and authorities here, we did the end-to-end process in less than 3 months, which normally maybe takes 3 years for other people, because again, we have that understanding, that flexibility, and that standardization. The standardization is very, very important, because if you start going out of that, you're gonna be in an infinite loop of extra requirement, etc. Our positioning as a software company selling a unified product is the core of everything as well.
I love that ultra high benchmark for a qualification perspective. In a previous life, I led BDR teams, so This resonates as far as sometimes qualified leads definitions vary as to exactly how qualified a lead may necessarily be. How do you hire for that kind of salesperson? How do you identify someone who's a good fit to, I suppose what you're describing there is really a white glove service, someone who's a people person who goes above and beyond?
Maybe I'll reply your question in a different way.
Mm.
But the worst thing would be to hire a guy that is senior, experienced, has this background into the data management with bigger companies in the market, that you're going to pay like 70, 80, 100,000 real, because that's the prices in the market. And eventually the guy comes and you realize that I was just piggybacking on the brand or on the clients that were already existing, and he didn't actually really bring any business by himself. And this is a huge mistake, because it's a costly mistake, because it's going to cost you a lot, going to take a lot of time for you to realize that as well. And it's going to be, again, very, very painful to also remove the person and the collaboration with the person. So that's really the mistakes we are trying to avoid. I'd rather hire 5 local guys, juniors, ODs with the right mentality, that are going to ask their family, their cousin, if they know something, that are hungry to thrive and to grow, than one guy that is super senior and experienced, but eventually is gonna talk a lot and bring few results. Maybe the 5 do not become like Jordan Belfort, but at least maybe one or two will succeed and will be much prouder of this, even as a company, even as an individual, than the other case, basically.
And how important is it for the platform to be Arabic first? That's something that definitely struck me when I was reading the press release. And what does that actually mean from a technical perspective? How difficult was it to build that out?
Look, the Arabic bit is not that difficult as a language, so
Mm.
technically speaking, it was quite easy. So when we say Arabic first, it's not really about language only, it's more about like localization
Yeah.
capabilities. So you have to also go back to what I told you before. The practice in data management before was to have this software. Maybe the chief data officer is there and having this software on his shelf. And then the whole entity, which again, if you're talking about the ministry, maybe you're talking about 20,000 people, no one ever heard about the software and or any data policy, right? Why? Because if you are using like Informatica, for example, first you have to be Informatica certified to use. If you don't have 3 years of experience with Informatica, you're not going to be able to use it properly. And secondly, again, if you don't have an Arabic, for example, how do you expect the business teams to use this software? Because data governance is not a software being used by IT and data teams only. It has to be shared across all the organization. For example, you, Jamie, if you are the head of sales, the data team is going to give you threshold, for example, of quality for your data and say, Jamie, you have the CRM, you have XYZ systems. We don't want less than 95% completeness on your data. So if you have empty fields, it's not going to be good. You're going to receive alerts and you're going to go have to fix it by yourself. So you as a business user, you're gonna have to use that software. It's not a software to put in a shelf with the data guy. It's a software to be shared across all the organization. So if you are not Arabic first, people are not gonna be able to use it. If you are not extremely good in UX and very complicated, people are not gonna be able to use it. And if you are not localized, means compliant to the local data practices, it's also completely useless, because again, people are not gonna use it as well. Maybe your data guy like applies GDPR rules and he has this somewhere and he's happy about it, but the rest of the entity is clueless. So for us, this is the gap really that we are like solving. So it's not just having an Arabic version of the software, is really making it usable
Mhm.
by everybody to do the work it was intended to do, and that it's not doing today with other solutions, right? This is the difference that we have versus others, is that they actually use our software and people actually actively using it on a daily basis, versus softwares that stay on the shelf or just with the chief data officer to have a nice data policy repository where he can put all his rules that are never going to get applied in reality.
Is Saudi very much the focus moving forward then from a market perspective? Looking at the makeup of the cap table from the seed round, it seems very Saudi focused. Is that the play moving forward? Is there scope regionally further down the line or globally? What's the ambition?
No, of course, like for us, we start with Saudi again because the need is there, the
Yeah.
regulation is there. And as just explained, like it's a huge market that is super underserved. So as a Saudi company, at the end of the day, we want to serve the kingdom first, and it's aligned with the vision of the country, etc. But yeah, the value proposition, honestly, it's global. We didn't take a global competitor and localized it. Our software is much better, much more modern, usable, and even the features, the modules that we have a lot of AI incorporated. So we do the things much better than any competitor globally. We could go, I think, today to the US and get a significant market share when it comes to this industry. It's just we don't want, because at the moment Saudi needs us. There's a lot of work to be done there. But of course, once we have a proper, I would say, market share awareness in the market, we are sort of like the ball is rolling at scale. So we have multiple people distributing our software also here, and we make sure that it's available for everyone and everyone can use it. Of course, the play then is regional and global, because again, our goal, the goal of the country, is aligned with our goal, is first to digitalize what we have, and then to lead the AI revolution, right? The Gen AI revolution. The idea is to lead it from Saudi, and we have the same ambition that tomorrow Governata is going to be a prerequisite globally for any AI adoption, in terms of data management, in terms of having your data in the right place to do AI, to do analytics, or to do anything else globally, because the value is there already. It's just the focus is now Saudi, because we want to go fast, we want to go big. We are laser focused to be able to execute and deliver faster. But for sure, you're going to hear about us globally very soon, after we are in a good place in the kingdom.
And maybe last thing, what's your biggest lesson now that you're sitting in the founder seat, which you haven't had before? Is there anything that you've learned over the course of the last number of months that surprised you?
Yeah, but if you have another 2 hours, Jimmy, we can talk about it. But for sure, like
Part two.
just it's definitely not the same, right? It's definitely not the same. For me, like in Foodix, for example, maybe I had like some point of time, maybe 80% of the payroll under myself. So you think that again, at the end of the day, you're like managing the company, but again, being in the founder seat is a whole different level as well. It's not just the same thing plus, it's a whole. Different thing when you have like a fiduciary duty on the company. You have to do the whole fundraising by yourself. Make sure like also people are working well together as an organization. It sticks together. The culture you have to print like from the first day, etc. It's a whole different ball game. So that's why I learned. It's not like maybe when I came, I was like, okay, I did it like 10 times before. I can do it one more time. And my main learning is like it's not one more time. It's a completely different time, and I'm happy about it. Actually, I was worried that I get a bit like not bored, but I just like repeated what I do one more time, even though it's for myself this time. But it's not the case. So I'm happy because I'm getting challenged on the daily basis. But again, for all people out there that have a job, even if they are like almost a founder, being a founder is another galaxy. It's like you were talking about UAE and Saudi expansion earlier. That's the same thing, from jumping from being an employee at the end of the day to a founder, even if you were not a regular employee, and even if you had like a very hands-on experience before. That's absolutely a different dimension and a different level when you become a founder, and you have to be ready for it.
Well, you seem to be managing it pretty well so far, my friend. So I look forward to doing this again when the Series A is announced. I'm sure that won't be too long at all. Jamal, thank you so much for your time, dude. Really, really appreciate this. It was a fantastic conversation.
Thanks, Jamie. Thanks. Appreciate.